I'm Bella, 29, and my life was perfect, just 2 weeks away from marrying the man of my dreams. Then, my sister dropped a bombshell, claiming she was pregnant with his baby. My world shattered, my family turned against me, and my wedding was postponed. But I had a secret weapon, a friend from medical school, and I was about to unleash her at the most unexpected place, the baby shower. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Growing up, I, Bella, always felt like I was navigating a labyrinth of expectations, specifically those set by my older sister, Maya. Maya, with her effortless charm and dazzling smile, had always been the golden child, the one who excelled without seemingly trying, the one who effortlessly commanded every room she entered. Her laughter, light and melodic, always seemed to draw every eye, every compliment, every piece of attention in our family. I, on the other hand, was the quiet observer, the diligent worker, the one who meticulously planned every step, every achievement feeling hard-won and often, to my perception, slightly less celebrated. Our parents, bless their hearts, never overtly declared a favorite, but the silent admiration, the subtle inclination of their attention towards Maya, was a pervasive current I felt constantly, a quiet hum in the rhine-so. Background of our family life. It wasn't overt neglect, but a persistent whisper that I needed to try harder, be more. A lingering shadow I constantly felt clinging to my own accomplishments, even my most significant ones. This dynamic, a delicate dance of unspoken competition and simmering resentment, had colored our relationship for as long as I could remember, an intricate, uncomfortable ballet of emotions. It was a dance I desperately wanted to stop, to escape, especially as I approached what I believed would be the happiest moment of my life, my wedding. My fiancé, Ben, was everything I had ever dreamed of, and in many ways, so much more than I thought possible. He was kind, gentle, possessed a quick wit that perfectly complemented my more reserved nature, and he saw me, truly saw me, beyond the shadow of my sister's dazzling persona. He appreciated my quiet determination, my meticulous planning, the deeper, more complex layers of my personality that Maya often seemed to skim over or entirely ignore. Our engagement had been a whirlwind of joyous planning, a blissful countdown to the moment we would pledge our lives to each other, a sacred commitment. 2 weeks away from our dream wedding, every single detail was meticulously chosen to reflect the quiet strength and deep, abiding love Ben and I shared. The antique lace for my custom-designed dress, the vibrant wildflowers for the bouquets, hand-picked for their symbolism, the intimate vineyard venue with its rolling, sun-drenched hills and ancient oak trees, all spoke of the authentic, unpretentious, and deeply meaningful future we envisioned. We had built a life together that was slowly, beautifully filling with quiet contentment, shared laughter, and a peaceful existence far removed from the internal turmoil that often characterized my family's interactions. Our future, in my mind, was a blank canvas, stretched taut and ready to be painted with the vibrant, harmonious hues of our shared aspirations, a sanctuary where peace, genuine affection, and unburdened joy would reign supreme. Then came the family dinner that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life and my family. It was a Sunday, the usual gathering at my parents' spacious, impeccably decorated home, a weekly ritual that often felt more like a carefully choreographed performance than a relaxed, heartfelt meal. The air was thick with the comforting, familiar scent of my mother's famous roast, an aroma that usually signaled warmth, familiarity, and domestic bliss. But that evening, an unsettling, almost electric undercurrent of tension hummed beneath the polite chatter, a strange, almost sinister energy that made the fine hairs on my arms prickle with a premonition of unease. Maya, typically the life of the party, the loudest voice at the table, the undisputed center of attention, was unusually quiet. her gaze darting furtively between me and Ben with a strange, almost smug, even malicious expression playing subtly on her lips. It was a look I recognized, a prelude to one of her grand pronouncements, a dramatic unveiling, but I couldn't quite place the exact nature of the storm gathering on the horizon. Ben, entirely oblivious to the unspoken drama unfolding around him, was regaling my father with a humorous, engaging story about a new, challenging project at work, his laughter easy and genuine, his eyes crinkling at the corners with amusement. He was so innocent, so utterly unaware of the precipice we were about to fall over, the abyss that was opening beneath our very feet. Midway through dessert, after the fragrant coffee had been poured into delicate porcelain cups, and the conversation had settled into a comfortable, almost sleepy lull, a sudden, sharp, and almost theatrical clearing of the throat drew all eyes instantly to Maya. The sound, amplified in the sudden, profound silence of the elegant dining room, instantly put me on edge, every fiber of my being on high alert. My mother, sensing the seismic shift in the atmosphere, paused with a delicate teacup halfway to her lips, her gaze fixed with a mixture of curiosity and vague apprehension on her eldest daughter. My father, who had been listening intently to Ben's story, slowly turned his full attention to the sudden, expectant quiet that now enveloped the table. "There's something I need to tell everyone," Maya announced, her voice surprisingly steady, yet expertly laced with a dramatic tremor that instantly sent a jolt of alarm through me, a premonition of disaster. She placed a hand on her stomach, a gesture that immediately sent a cold dread washing over me, a nauseating, foreboding sensation that tightened my stomach into a painful, icy knot. I had seen this play out before, Maya's undeniable flair for the dramatic, her uncanny ability to seize the spotlight, to orchestrate a scene for maximum impact. But this felt different. This felt heavier, darker, laced with an unfamiliar, deeply unsettling malice that sent shivers down my spine. My mother gasped, the delicate teacup slipping from her trembling fingers with a gentle clatter against the saucer, a sound that seemed to reverberate disproportionately in the sudden quiet. My father's eyes widened, a mixture of initial shock and dawning, terrible realization spreading across his usually composed, unreadable face. Then, catching the sudden, profound change in atmosphere, stopped mid-sentence, his brow furrowed with confusion, his easy smile replaced by a look of bewildered concern, a dawning unease. "I'm pregnant," Maya declared, her voice rising slightly, imbued with a theatrical triumph, a single tear, perfectly placed and glistening, rolling slowly down her cheek, catching the light from the chandelier. The words hung in the air, thick and heavy, a physical weight that pressed down on the room, crushing the comfortable silence, shattering the fragile illusion of normalcy, tearing through the very fabric of our family gathering, leaving it in dasha. Tatters. My breath caught in my throat, a painful constriction in my chest that left me breathless. Pregnant? 1,000 frantic thoughts raced through my mind, a chaotic, dizzying whirlwind of confusion and utter disbelief. Maya had always been fiercely independent, relentlessly career-focused, seemingly uninterested in settling down or embracing domesticity, vehemently against the idea of early motherhood. This revelation was utterly out of character, a jarring discord in the symphony of our family's expectations, a discordant, jarring note in the carefully orchestrated harmony I had always associated with her meticulously curated image. Then, her gaze, filled with a twisted mixture of feigned sorrow and cold, hard defiance, shifted slowly from our stunned parents to me, lingering for a fraction of a second with an almost imperceptible sneer, before landing squarely, like a venomous dart, on Ben. And it's Ben's. The world tilted violently on its axis, spinning into a dizzying, nauseating blur. The comfortable dining room, the familiar faces of my family, the comforting scent of roast, everything spun into a dizzying vortex of unreality, a waking nightmare unfolding in vivid, horrifying detail before my very double E. AIS. The accusation, delivered with such chilling, calculated precision, struck me like a physical blow. A sudden, blinding pain that stole my breath, knocked the wind out of me. A cold, sickening wave of disbelief and nausea washed over me, rendering me utterly speechless, breathless, rooted to my seat as if encased in ice. Ben, beside me, stiffened abruptly, his face draining of all color, transforming from confusion to a look of utter shock, then profound, bewildered horror, as Maya's cruel, monstrous words registered in his mind. "What?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice a broken sound, barely audible even to myself, a mere gasp swallowed by the profound silence that now permeated the room. My gaze locked onto Ben's, desperately searching for an explanation, a vehement denial, a frantic plea, anything at all, to dispel the chilling, insidious reality of Maya's words. His eyes, wide with shock and confusion, met mine, filled with an immediate, desperate plea, a silent cry for understanding, for belief. But before he could utter a single word, before he could even begin to process the monstrous, baseless accusation, my mother, her face contorted with grief and a sudden, furious, almost irrational anger, turned on him. "Ben, how could you? With Maya, Isabella's own sister, your fiancé's flesh and blood. 2 weeks before the wedding, before you were to become a part of this family forever." Her voice rose to a guttural crescendo, filled with a raw agony that pierced me to the core, a sound that ripped through the air like a siren of despair, a wail of betrayal. My father, his face a mask of furious disappointment, his fists clenched tightly at his sides, stood abruptly, knocking over his chair with a jarring clatter that echoed eerily in the sudden, profound silence of the room. He advanced purposefully towards Ben, his eyes blazing with righteous indignation, his movements stiff with controlled fury. "Explain yourself, young man. What heinous betrayal have you wrought upon this family? What depraved act have you committed against my daughter, against all of us? I was a mere bystander in my own nightmare, a detached observer watching my life unravel before my very eyes, a tragic, surreal play where I had been cast as the unwitting, humiliated fool." Ben, surrounded by a storm of accusations, tried desperately to speak, to defend himself, to offer logical rebuttals to Maya's outrageous, baseless claim. But his words, if he managed to utter any, were drowned out by the rising tide of my family's collective outrage, their voices a cacophony of condemnation, a furious, indignant roar. Their faces, once filled with joyous anticipation for my wedding, were now contorted with anger, profound disappointment, and a deep-seated sense of betrayal that felt like a physical assault, a brutal pummeling of my very spirit. I felt a strange, chilling detachment, as if I were watching a poorly scripted, melodramatic drama unfold on a distant screen, far removed from my own reality. The profound betrayal, the public humiliation, the sheer audacity of Maya's claim, all of it coalesced into a suffocating weight that pressed down on my chest, stealing my breath, leaving me gasping for air. My wedding, my future, my carefully constructed world, all seemed to crumble around me, reduced to dust by a few venomous, perfectly aimed words, delivered with a chilling, calculated precision. The silence that followed the initial uproar was even more deafening, a vacuum where joy and anticipation had once resided, replaced by a chilling void of despair. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had just detonated a bomb in the heart of my life, a malicious act of pure destruction, and I was left standing in the rubble, utterly alone, adrift in a turbulent sea of suspicion and taintulence and shattered trust. My engagement, once a beacon of unadulterated happiness, a symbol of a bright future, was now a shipwreck, its dreams scattered, its purpose lost, adrift in a turbulent sea of familial condemnation and my own rise. Profound confusion. The initial, staggering shock of Maya's devastating announcement slowly congealed into a cold, hard knot of disbelief and pervasive grief within me. The days that followed were a torturous blur of hushed conversations, tearful accusations, and a profound, pervasive sense of isolation that clung to me like a suffocating shroud. The beautiful, vibrant tapestry of my wedding plans, once so meticulously woven, unraveled thread by agonizing thread. The picturesque vineyard venue was called, the enthusiastic caterers regretfully informed, the florist, who had designed my dream bouquet, heartbroken. Each cancellation felt like a fresh wound, a tangible loss of the future I had envisioned, a brutal severing of my hopes. My mother, consumed by what she perceived as an unspeakable scandal, retreated into a shell of grief and public shame, her phone calls punctuated by choked sobs and anguished pleas for me to understand her profound, quote, despair, her embarrassment. My father, typically the stoic patriarch, moved through their spacious home with a heavy silence, his disappointment a palpable weight in the air, thicker than any tension, more suffocating than any silence I had ever known. "How could you not know, Isabella?" my mother had wailed one afternoon, her voice raw with grief, her words laced with an underlying current of bitter accusation. "How could you be so blind to what was happening right under your nose, to such a profound betrayal?" It wasn't just Ben who was on trial. It was my judgment, my understanding of the people closest to me, my very perception of reality that was being questioned, being shredded. My entire family, from my well-meaning but easily swayed aunts and uncles to distant cousins I barely knew, seemed to rally unequivocally around Maya, their collective pity for her overshadowing any concern for my own profound pain, my own shattered dreams. Sympathy, I realized with a bitter taste in my mouth, was a commodity, and Maya, in her masterful, tearful performance, had expertly monopolized the market. Positioning herself as the innocent victim of a heinous betrayal, skillfully deflecting any potential scrutiny of her own character. Then, in the agonizing days that followed, was a mere ghost of his former self. His usually bright, engaging eyes were dulled by despair, his quick wit and infectious laughter replaced by a quiet, desperate silence that spoke volumes of his agony. He tried repeatedly, desperately, to reach out to my family, to explain, to offer logical, irrefutable rebuttals to Maya's outrageous, baseless claim. He swore on everything he held dear, on the very foundation of our love, on his honor, that he had never, not once, been intimate with Maya. His denials were passionate, his despair evident, his pleas heartfelt, but my family, already swayed by Maya's tearful performance and her calculated, manipulative narrative, dismissed his desperate pleas as desperate lies, the clumsy, transparent attempts of a guilty man trying to save face. They clung to Maya's story with a fervent, almost zealous conviction, the narrative of the wronged woman, the innocent victim carrying a secret sorrow, a woman tragically betrayed by a man who was supposed to marry her sister. This narrative painted Ben as a monstrous betrayer and me as a naive, utterly foolish pawn in a cruel theatrical game. I, too, found myself in a strange, agonizing limbo. Part of me, the part that knew Ben's true character, the part that had witnessed his unwavering loyalty, his profound integrity, his innate goodness, desperately wanted to believe him, to cling to his innocence. The Ben I knew was utterly incapable of such a profound, despicable betrayal, especially not with my own sister, a transgression that felt beyond the pale of human decency, a violation of every sacred trust. But another part, the deep-seated insecurity that Maya's mere presence always triggered within me, whispered insidious doubts, corrosive and persistent. The years of feeling subtly diminished, of constantly feeling less than, of Maya's uncanny ability to disrupt my happiness, to subtly undermine my triumphs, gnawed at me with relentless precision. Could it be possible, I tormented myself, that I had truly been so blind, so trusting, so utterly oblivious to a betrayal of such magnitude, to such a monstrous deception? The insidious questions wormed their way into my mind, poisoning the well of my trust, making me question everything I thought I knew about my fiancé, my sister, and crucially, about myself. The wedding, of course, was immediately postponed. My mother, distraught and publicly humiliated by the supposed scandal, insisted it was the only way, her voice trembling with a fragile conviction that bordered on hysteria. "How can we possibly celebrate?" she had sobbed, her words barely audible through her tears, "with such a dark cloud hanging over our family, with such a terrible secret exposed for all to see." The venue was contacted, the caterers informed. The invitations, now a painful, ironic reminder of shattered dreams, became mere symbols of a painful, indefinite deferral. Each cancellation felt like a fresh stab to my heart, a tangible, brutal loss of what I was losing. Not just a wedding, but the serene, untroubled future I had meticulously planned with Ben, a future that now seemed to crumble into dust. My phone, once buzzing with congratulatory messages and excited wedding updates from friends and family, now largely remained silent, or rang only with hushed, pitying tones from distant relatives who offered empty platitudes instead of genuine, unwavering support. My friends, those outside the immediate family circle, were bewildered, hesitant to take sides in such a deeply personal and explosively dramatic conflict, fearful of being drawn into the vortex of family turmoil. I felt utterly alone, adrift in a turbulent sea of familial condemnation, clinging desperately to the fragmented shards of my shattered engagement, my spirit wounded and utterly adrift, lost in a sea of despair. Despite the crushing weight of public opinion and my family's unwavering, almost fervent belief in Maya's meticulously fabricated narrative, a tiny, stubborn flicker of doubt persisted within me, a persistent ember, in the cold ashes of my despair. It wasn't a logical doubt, but an intuitive one, a gut feeling, a visceral sense that something was profoundly, fundamentally wrong with Maya's story, a discordant note in her otherwise perfect symphony of lies. Her past behavior, her uncanny ability to manipulate situations for her own gain, to orchestrate elaborate charades for attention, began to surface with unsettling clarity in my memory. A recurring pattern of subtle sabotage that I had perhaps dismissed as mere sibling rivalry, as harmless desires for attention. But this pregnancy claim felt different. It felt like the ultimate culmination of that sinister pattern, a grand, theatrical gesture designed to steal my spotlight in the most spectacular, devastating way possible, to shatter my happiness with a cruel, undeniable precision. I tried desperately to talk to Maya, to plead with her, to understand her motives, to peel back the layers of her deception and find the truth beneath. But she maintained her victim narrative with unshakable conviction, her eyes wide with what she claimed was profound sorrow, but what I now suspected was a cold, calculating resolve, a chilling determination. She spoke of a whirlwind, passionate romance with Ben, a moment of passionate weakness, a forbidden love, a narrative so absurd, so utterly unlike Ben's quiet, reserved, honorable character, that it finally solidified my nascent suspicion. It was a story spun from pure fantasy, designed to evoke maximum sympathy and minimum scrutiny, a flimsy web of lies. Ben, for his part, had retreated further into a shell of quiet despair, unable to penetrate the impenetrable wall of disbelief erected by my family. His silence, though born of hopelessness and profound hurt, was unfortunately interpreted by my family as a tacit admission of guilt, further cementing Maya's false narrative in their minds. In my utter despair, as the overwhelming emotional weight of my situation threatened to crush me, to suffocate me entirely, I remembered Alex. Alex, my closest friend from medical school, was brilliant, fiercely intelligent, and possessed a razor-sharp wit that could cut through any pretense, any carefully constructed lie, with surgical precision. She was also fiercely loyal, her devotion to her friends unwavering and true, a bedrock of support. We had navigated the grueling, often brutal years of medical training together. dissecting cadavers under harsh fluorescent lights, pulling countless all-nighters fueled by stale coffee and sheer determination, and sharing countless moments of vulnerability and triumph, of despair and quiet. Celebration. We had seen each other at our most vulnerable, our most exhausted, and our most determined. Alex had a gift for observation, an uncanny ability to read between the lines, to discern truth from deception, with an almost unsettling, innate accuracy. She was my anchor, my rock, the one person who could always ground me in reality, no matter how chaotic my world became. I called her! My voice strained, on the very verge of breaking, the words tumbling out in a frantic rush of raw pain, confusion, and desperate hope. I recounted the entire nightmarish saga, pouring out my heart, the raw pain and lingering doubts, the overwhelming sense of betrayal and isolation. Alex listened patiently, her silence a comforting balm, her presence a steadying force through the phone line, even across the distance. When I finished, a long, pregnant pause stretched between us, filled only by the muffled sounds of the city outside my window and the ragged sound of my own breathing. Then, Alex's voice, calm and steady, cut through my despair, slicing through the emotional chaos that had consumed me with the precision of a surgeon. "Isabella," she said, her tone devoid of judgment, utterly professional yet deeply empathetic. "This doesn't sound like Ben, and it sounds exactly like Maya trying to ruin your life, as she's done in smaller, more Dawn. Subtle ways before, hasn't she? This is just her grand finale. Have you actually seen any proof? A doctor's note? An ultrasound? Any tangible, verifiable evidence beyond her tearful assertion and dramatic pronouncements?" The questions hung in the air. Simple, logical, yet entirely overlooked in the emotional chaos and overwhelming grief of the past agonizing week. My family, blinded by their grief and anger, and perhaps by their long-standing idealization of Maya, had simply accepted her word as gospel, requiring no further verification, no empirical evidence. No, I hadn't seen any proof. No one had. "No," I admitted, a sliver of hope, sharp and defiant, beginning to pierce through the thick, suffocating fog of my despair, a desperate flicker of light in the overwhelming darkness. "No, I haven't seen any proof. Not a single piece of credible evidence, only her claims." "Then you need to get some, Isabella," Alex stated, her voice firm, resolute, infused with a quiet power. "And if she's faking, if this is all a malicious fabrication, we'll expose her. Not just for your sake, but for Ben's, to clear his unjustly tarnished name, and for the integrity of your family. To strip away the layers of deceit. How about we pay her a little visit at this baby shower I hear your family is planning? It seems like the perfect stage for the truth to reveal itself, for her lies to unravel spectacularly." The idea, initially shocking in its sheer audacity, its brazen risk, quickly took root, blossoming into a desperate, yet exhilarating resolve within me. A baby shower. The ultimate celebration of new life, a stage perfectly set for Maya's grand performance, her crowning achievement of manipulation and deceit. And, simultaneously, the perfect stage for her undoing, for the spectacular collapse of her carefully constructed lie, for her public humiliation. A sense of cold, righteous fury, a feeling I hadn't known I possessed, began to simmer within me. A quiet, dangerous fire that grew with every beat of my heart. My dignity, my reputation, my shattered wedding, all of it had been trampled underfoot, ground into the dust by Maya's callous disregard and malicious intent. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I wasn't getting my wedding back, not yet, perhaps not ever in the way I had envisioned, but I was damn sure going to reclaim my dignity, to expose the truth, no matter the cost, no matter the fallout. The plan, audacious and risky, began to form in my mind, a desperate gamble for the truth, a desperate bid to reclaim my shattered life and restore what was rightfully mine. The pastel-colored invitation to Maya's baby shower arrived a few days later, a glossy, embossed affront adorned with tiny booties and rattles, almost mocking in its saccharine sweetness. It felt like a cruel joke, a stark, painful reminder of the happiness that had been stolen from me, replaced by this grotesque charade, this celebratory facade for a monumental lie. My parents, still reeling from the supposed scandal and desperate to project an image of familial unity and resilience to their social circle, had organized the event with a frantic, almost desperate energy. It was as if throwing a lavish party could somehow magically erase the stain on their family name, cleanse the perceived sin, and restore a semblance of normalcy and respectability. The bitter irony wasn't lost on me. Their urgency to celebrate Maya's alleged pregnancy was a direct consequence of the very wedding they had so readily, so brutally postponed. My initial instinct, fueled by the lingering pain, humiliation, and a deep-seated sense of betrayal, was to simply refuse the invitation, to bury myself in the quiet despair of my apartment, to nurse my wounds in solitude, far from the prying, judgmental eyes of my family. Their whispered, pitying condolences. But Alex's words, her sharp, incisive questions, her unwavering belief in my innocence, had planted a stubborn seed of defiant resolve. I wasn't just a victim in this horrifying narrative. I was a woman who had been grievously wronged, publicly humiliated, and I deserved the truth, a public, undeniable vindication that would clear my name and Ben's. My dignity, battered but not entirely broken, demanded retribution, a clear and decisive triumph over the deceit that had threatened to consume my entire life. I confirmed my attendance, my reply brief, devoid of emotion, a mere formality conveyed through a cold, impersonal text message. My mother, surprised and perhaps tentatively relieved by my acceptance, called almost immediately, her voice laced with a fragile hope that I was finally accepting Maya's supposed condition. She probably hoped my presence signified acceptance, a reluctant truce in the escalating family drama, a sign that I was finally coming to terms with the supposed reality of the situation. She had no idea, no inkling whatsoever, that I was planning a surgical strike, a precision operation designed to expose the truth with devastating, undeniable clarity, to pull back the curtain on Maya's curdo. Elaborate charade. In the days leading up to the shower, Alex and I meticulously planned our strategy, honing every detail, rehearsing our lines until they felt natural, casual, and utterly disarming. Alex, with her keen medical mind, her unwavering loyalty, and her unparalleled ability to remain calm under immense pressure, was an invaluable ally, the perfect co-conspirator in this desperate mission for truth. We discussed subtle approaches, seemingly casual questions, and nuanced ways to elicit information without overtly accusing Maya, without appearing confrontational or aggressive. The goal wasn't public humiliation initially, not yet. It was exposure, a gentle nudge towards the truth that would inevitably, and spectacularly, unravel Maya's elaborate deception from within, making her trip over her own carefully constructed lies. We needed her to expose herself, not for us to directly accuse her. "Remember, Isabella," Alex cautioned, her voice calm but firm, infused with a quiet resolve. As we rehearsed our lines over countless cups of strong, black coffee in her sleek, modern apartment, the city lights twinkling below us like scattered jewels, we're not there to accuse directly. We're there to observe, to ask medically relevant questions in a casual, conversational way. Questions that a truly pregnant woman, especially one 5 months along, should be able to answer easily and confidently. Her reaction, her hesitation, her inability to provide genuine, verifiable details will tell us everything we need to know. Let her hang herself with her own rope, her own tangled web of deceit. Alex, with her cool demeanor and sharp analytical skills, was the perfect counterpoint to my simmering emotions, my burning desire for immediate, unequivocal justice. She was my anchor, my rock, preventing me from succumbing to the overwhelming urge to simply scream the truth, to unleash the raw fury that simmered beneath my carefully composed exterior. The day of the baby shower dawned, a bright, deceptively innocent Saturday, the kind of perfect autumn day that seemed to mock the darkness brewing beneath its tranquil surface. The air was crisp, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue. My heart hammered against my ribs with a nervous tremor that seemed to reverberate through my entire body as I drove to my parents' sprawling, elegant house, the familiar route now charged with a nervous, electric energy, each turn bringing me closer to the inevitable, terrifying confrontation. I chose an outfit that was understated yet elegant. A simple, tailored dress in a neutral tone, a subtle defiance against the pastel explosion and saccharine sweetness that I knew awaited me inside. My resolve hardened with every mile, solidifying into a steely determination, a cold, unwavering focus. When I arrived, the house was already buzzing with activity, a cacophony of excited chatter, high-pitched laughter, and the tinkling of champagne flutes. The living room, typically reserved for formal occasions and quiet contemplation, was awash in a dizzying array of baby-themed decorations. Balloons shaped like storks and cradles floated lazily towards the ceiling. Tables were laden with tiny pastel-colored gifts, miniature clothes, and plush toys, and a towering, tiered cake adorned with edible baby booties sat as the centerpiece, its frosting impossibly pink and blue, radiating a saccharine sweetness. My relatives, a sea of sympathetic faces, greeted me with hushed condolences, their voices low and laden with pity. Their pitying glances fueled my simmering anger, their well-meaning whispers a painful reminder of their unwavering, gullible belief in Maya's cruel narrative. They had all bought into Maya's story, hook, line, and sinker, their hearts softened by what they perceived as a tragic tale of betrayal and nascent motherhood. Maya, radiant and glowing in a loose-fitting maternity dress that cleverly disguised any lack of a baby bump, held court in the very center of the room. She was surrounded by fawning relatives, basking in their attention, her face a mask of demure sweetness, occasionally dabbing at a tear that never quite fell, a performance perfected over weeks of meticulous preparation. She looked utterly convincing, an actress inhabiting her role with chilling precision, effortlessly drawing in her audience, basking in the glow of false sympathy and unearned adoration. The sight of her, basking in the glow of this deceptive adoration, ignited a cold, burning fury within me, a realization of the terrifying depths of her callous manipulation and the profound injustice of it all. Then was nowhere in sight. Of course. My family hadn't even bothered to include him in the guest list. A clear, unspoken signal of their unwavering belief in Maya's narrative, their complete and utter condemnation of him. His absence, his forced estrangement from the family he had once so eagerly embraced and loved, only fueled my determination, cementing my resolve to expose Maya's lies and clear his unjustly maligned name. This wasn't just about my dignity, it was about clearing Ben's reputation, about restoring his good name, about unraveling the cruel, unjust betrayal that had been inflicted upon him, a betrayal that had ripped our lives apart. Alex arrived a few minutes after me, dressed equally impeccably in a tailored, professional ensemble that exuded competence and quiet authority. Her medical bag, unassuming yet subtly imposing, was clutched firmly in her hand. She greeted me with a discreet, almost imperceptible nod, her gaze sweeping over the room, taking in every detail, every subtle cue, her sharp eyes missing nothing, absorbing everything. She moved with an easy grace, her presence immediately commanding a quiet respect from the guests, an almost imperceptible shift in the room's energy as people instinctively made way for her. My parents, surprised to see her, greeted her warmly, exchanging polite pleasantries, utterly unaware of her true purpose, of the surgical precision of her impending intervention. Alex, with her charming smile and genuine demeanor, introduced herself as my old medical school friend, genuinely interested in the exciting news that had permeated the family grapevine, her voice radiating an almost disarming warmth. The shower proceeded with all the typical rituals. The saccharine gift opening, where Maya cooed over tiny onesies and plush toys, the mildly embarrassing baby-themed games that elicited forced laughter, and endless platitudes about the joys of impending motherhood from on. Well-meaning relatives. Maya played her role to absolute perfection, cooing over tiny outfits, feigning delicate nausea at the sight of certain rich foods, and sharing carefully constructed, fabricated anecdotes about her supposed pregnancy symptoms, her imagined doctor's appointments, her sudden, peculiar cravings. My family members hung on her every word, their faces beaming with anticipation, utterly captivated by her masterful performance, completely invested in her fabricated reality. Then came the moment. As dessert was served, and the room buzzed with happy, unsuspecting chatter, Alex, with a plate of cake in her hand, a warm, disarming smile on her face, casually approached Maya. I hovered nearby, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation. My senses were heightened, every nerve ending alert, my entire being focused on the impending confrontation. The air seemed to crackle with an unspoken tension, a silent electricity that only I, and perhaps Alex, could feel. "Maya, darling, congratulations again," Alex began, her voice sweet and amiable, radiating an almost disarming warmth. "It's truly wonderful news, simply delightful. Isabella has told me so much about you over the years, all the amazing things you've done, and it's so exciting to hear you're finally expecting your own little one. As a doctor, you know, I'm always fascinated by the incredible journey of pregnancy, the intricate miracle of it all. How life begins. How far along are you now, officially? What's your exact due date, if you don't mind me asking, just for my own professional curiosity?" Maya, caught completely off guard by the direct, yet seemingly innocuous medical question, faltered for a fraction of a second. Her carefully constructed smile tightened, her gaze darting frantically towards me, then quickly back to Alex, a flash of apprehension, a flicker of panic, entering her eyes. "Oh, about 5 months now?" she stammered, her voice a little too casual, a touch too quick, a subtle tremor betraying her feigned composure. "Yes, exactly 5 months, I think. Or maybe just a little over. 5 months. How lovely! That's a wonderful stage of pregnancy," Alex continued, her tone still light, conversational, utterly pleasant, but her eyes, I noticed, sharpened imperceptibly, a cool, predatory glint entering their depths. "And what a fantastic job you've done of hiding it. No noticeable bump at all. Remarkable, really, for 5 months along. Some women, bless them, are already showing quite significantly by then, blossoming wonderfully. Their pregnancy quite apparent. Have you found your carrying particularly neat, perhaps? Or is it just your metabolism keeping things tucked away nicely, a fortunate genetic trait that runs in your family?" She maintained eye contact, her smile unwavering, but her questions were precise, designed to expose, to unravel the carefully constructed facade, each word a subtle probe. Maya's eyes flickered nervously, a faint flush creeping up her neck, spreading across her cheeks like an unwelcome blush. She mumbled something vague about carrying small and good genes, her words trailing off into an uncertain whisper, her voice losing its earlier confident lilt. Her composure, usually so unshakable, seemed to fray at the edges, a hairline crack appearing in her perfect mask, revealing the fragile deception beneath. Alex nodded thoughtfully, as if genuinely considering Maya's flimsy, evasive answer, her expression one of polite, professional curiosity. "Ah, yes. Carrying small is quite common indeed, a variation of normal. And with 5 months behind you, officially into your second trimester, almost halfway through, I assume you've had all your routine scans then? The 20-week anatomy scan, specifically? It's such an exciting one for expectant parents. Truly a milestone. You get to see all the little fingers and toes, count them, hear the heartbeat, and often determine the gender if you choose. And of course, it's crucial for checking for any potential complications, ensuring everything is progressing perfectly for both mother and baby. When was your last scan, if you recall the exact date? Her gaze was unyielding, direct, her smile unwavering, but her questions were clinical, precise, and entirely designed to expose the gaping holes in Maya's fabrication, to leave her no escape. Maya's face paled further, the color completely draining from her cheeks, leaving her looking suddenly fragile, vulnerable, almost translucent. She stammered, her words coming out in a desperate rush, stumbling over each other. "Oh, yes, of course. Everything's fine. Perfectly fine. Just busy with work. You know, so incredibly busy. Haven't really had time to focus on all the medical stuff. It's all so overwhelming, isn't it? All those appointments and reports." Her voice was thin, reedy, losing its earlier confidence, laced with a desperate, transparent plea for understanding, for an out. "Of course, a busy schedule is entirely understandable, darling. Especially for an expectant mother," Alex empathized, her tone still pleasant, almost saccharine. But her voice now infused with an almost imperceptible hint of skepticism, a subtle, cold challenge. "But those scans are so incredibly important, aren't they? Especially for dating the pregnancy accurately, ensuring the due date is precise, and for monitoring fetal growth, and seeing the growth trajectory, tracking the baby's development and milestones. Have you got your reports handy? Perhaps your ultrasound images?" "Ow!" "They're such beautiful visual records. I'd absolutely love to see them, just out of professional curiosity. You understand. I always find it fascinating to see how each pregnancy progresses so uniquely, how each little life begins to take shape inside the womb." Her gaze was unyielding, direct, her questions relentless, each one a perfectly aimed nail in the coffin of Maya's crumbling deception, leaving her no room to maneuver. The room, which had been buzzing with background chatter and polite conversation, seemed to quiet, a sudden, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere. As conversations faltered and attention instinctively shifted to the increasingly tense exchange between Maya and Alex. My parents, who had been listening in, their faces initially filled with casual interest, now looked at Maya with a dawning concern, their previous unquestioning acceptance of her narrative beginning to crack, deep fissures appearing in their long-held belief in their perfect daughter. Maya's eyes darted frantically around the room, trapped, cornered, like a desperate animal caught in a snare. Her carefully constructed facade was crumbling, piece by agonizing piece, revealing the raw, ugly truth beneath, a desperate charade. "Reports?" Maya repeated, her voice a choked whisper, barely audible above the sudden, profound silence that now permeated the room. Her eyes were wide with panic. I don't keep them on me. They're at home, at my apartment. Of course, they're very private." She tried to inject a note of casual annoyance, of privacy, but her trembling hands, her shaking voice, betrayed her utter desperation. "Of course, darling. Perfectly understandable. It's not something one carries around everywhere," Alex said, her smile not faltering even for a second, but her voice now infused with an undeniable tone of skepticism, a subtle, chilling challenge. "But you must have received the keepsake photos from the scans. Every mother-to-be cherishes those first glimpses of their little one, the grainy but precious sonogram images, a little keepsake to carry in their wallet, to show Juan. Off to loved ones? We all know that magical moment of first seeing our little one's profile, or their tiny heartbeat flickering on the screen, that first connection." Her gaze was unyielding, direct, her questions relentless, each one designed to push Maya closer to the precipice of exposure, to force her hand, to make her confess. Maya's breath hitched, a desperate, strangled sound caught in her throat. Her face contorted, no longer with feigned sadness or demure grace, but with genuine, raw panic. utterly stripped of pretense. Her eyes, wide and desperate, darted wildly from Alex to me, then to our parents, who were now staring at her with growing suspicion, their faces etched with a terrible, dawning understanding, a horror slowly creeping in. Their initial credulity, their long-held, unwavering belief in their golden child, was evaporating with each unanswered question, each flimsy excuse, each desperate evasion. The weight of their expectant, now openly accusatory gazes, the sudden, profound silence in the room, became a suffocating pressure, pressing in on Maya, stealing her breath, crushing her under its undeniable weight. "There are no photos!" Maya shrieked, her composure finally shattering into 1,000 pieces, her voice rising in a desperate, raw, almost primal cry that ripped through the quiet room like a siren, piercing the sudden silence. "There's no baby! It was all a lie! All of it! Every single word!" The words, stripped bare of pretense, devoid of any attempt at a graceful exit or a final desperate excuse, exploded into the shocked silence of the room. A collective gasp, a ripple of disbelief and utter outrage, swept through the assembled guests. My mother let out a strangled cry, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with a sudden, terrible dawning of the truth, a profound betrayal etched on her face. My father's face, a mixture of stunned disbelief and dawning, furious rage, slowly turned towards Maya, his jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with a cold, righteous anger. Maya, her face contorted in a mask of shame, desperate panic, and utter humiliation, pushed past Alex and me with surprising, frantic force, almost knocking me over. She collided with a small side table, sending a vase of baby-themed flowers crashing to the polished floor. Water and petals scattered across the gleaming wood, a messy, symbolic representation of her crumbling deception, her shattered facade. She didn't offer another word. No apology. No explanation. No desperate plea for understanding or forgiveness. She simply ran, blindly, hysterically, fueled by pure terror and shame, out of the living room, through the front door, and vanished into the crisp autumn air, leaving behind a bewildered, stunned silence and the shattered remnants of her elaborate, cruel deception, her meticulously constructed lie. The baby shower was over. There was no baby, just a malicious, venomously executed lie fueled by deep-seated, corrosive jealousy. I didn't get my wedding back, not yet, but I got my dignity, a vindication as clear and as cutting as Alex's precisely aimed, perfectly devastating questions. My family, now facing the harsh, undeniable reality of Maya's profound betrayal, stood frozen, their faces a mixture of shock, confusion, and a dawning, terrible understanding of the immense injustice that had been inflicted upon Ben and me, and indeed, upon themselves, upon the very fabric of their family. The fight for my dignity had only just begun, but I had won the first, crucial battle, a triumph born of truth and fueled by an unwavering resolve, a quiet, steely determination. The silence that Maya left behind was not merely an absence of sound, but a profound, suffocating void, heavy with the weight of her devastating confession. It was a silence filled with the lingering echoes of her panicked admission, the painful truth of her monstrous lie, the clatter of the overturned vase, and the collective gasp of a family utterly bewildered, their world dramatically upended. My parents, their faces a canvas of disbelief and dawning horror, stood motionless, their gaze fixed on the empty doorway where Maya had vanished, as if expecting her to reappear and somehow retract the agonizing truth, to erase the last few horrific minutes. The remaining guests, initially stunned into shocked immobility, began to murmur, a low hum of whispers that slowly rose in volume as the devastating gravity of Maya's confession settled upon them, infecting the very air. The pastel decorations, the tiny baby booties, the meticulously tailored celebratory cake, all now seemed grotesque, mocking symbols of a cruel, calculating deception, a celebration of a lie. My mother, her face still contorted with the shock of betrayal, let out a choked sob, a raw, anguished sound that tore through the quiet room. My father, his jaw clenched so tight it ached, his eyes dark with a simmering rage that threatened to consume him, finally broke the spell of stunned silence. What was that?" he demanded, his voice a raw whisper, barely audible, laden with disbelief and profound hurt, directed at me, at Alex, at the stunned, incredulous air itself, as if questioning the very reality of calm. What had just transpired? Alex, ever the composed professional, her demeanor a stark, unwavering contrast to the emotional chaos erupting around her, stepped forward with a measured, calm authority. "It was the truth, Mr. Vance. Or rather, the devastating lack of one. The utter absence of any truth in Maya's claims." She looked at the bewildered, accusatory faces around the room, her gaze steady, unflinching, her voice clear and precise. As a medical professional, and Isabella's friend, I felt it was important to clarify certain glaring discrepancies in Maya's story. Pregnancy, especially at 5 months, leaves undeniable physical evidence. Verifiable medical markers. My questions were simply designed to elicit proof, to verify her claims, to see if there was any factual basis to her assertions. The fact that she had none, and responded with such a dramatic confession and immediate flight, speaks for itself, leaving no room for doubt, no shred of ambiguity. Her words, delivered with a calm, clinical authority, stripped away the lingering disbelief, replacing it with a stark, undeniable, and deeply painful reality for everyone present. The whispers in the room grew louder, morphing into exclamations of shock, outrage, and a growing sense of profound betrayal. Relatives who had just moments before showered Maya with lavish gifts and tearful sympathy now looked at each other with dawning comprehension. Their faces reflecting a mixture of profound embarrassment, a deep-seated indignation at having been so thoroughly deceived, and a quiet horror at having been so thoroughly manipulated. My mother, her eyes wide with a sudden, terrible realization, her composure utterly shattered, slowly turned to me, her trembling hand reaching out, as if seeking solace, or perhaps a desperate plea for forgiveness. "Isabella, oh, my dear, she lied. To all of us? About something so fundamental, so sacred, so deeply personal as a pregnancy?" Her voice cracked with genuine raw pain. An anguish that transcended the immediate shock, but also with a dawning, crushing understanding of the immense, callous betrayal she had just witnessed, perpetrated by her own flesh and blood, her own daughter. My father, his face still etched with a deep-seated fury, his jaw clenched, slowly turned his gaze towards me, his eyes, which had once been filled with condemnation for Ben, now reflected a profound apology. A silent recognition of the unimaginable injustice I had suffered, the excruciating pain I had endured at their hands. "Benny," he muttered, his voice heavy with contrition, a bitter taste of regret in his mouth, a profound sense of self-reproach. She accused Benin, and we believed her without question. We let her do this. The words were a self-indictment, a painful acknowledgement of their own profound error, their own complicity in the spread of the lie. The mention of Ben's name hung in the air, a stark, agonizing reminder of the innocent collateral damage of Maya's elaborate, cruel lie. The wedding, the abrupt postponement, the family's swift and brutal ostracization of the man I loved, all of it based on a malicious fabrication, a twisted narrative woven from spite, jealousy, and utter disregard for the truth. I felt a surge of complex emotions, a tumultuous mix of profound vindication, deep sorrow, and a cold, simmering anger that threatened to consume me, a quiet fire burning within. Vindication, because the truth, however painful, however devastating its revelation, was finally out, undeniably exposed for all to see, undeniable and absolute. Sorrow, for the shattered illusion of my family's unity, for the irreparable damage to their trust in each other, for the tarnished image of the perfect, harmonious family we had always strived to project to the world. And anger, a cold, burning rage at Maya for her callous disregard for anyone but herself, for her willingness to destroy lives, to inflict such profound pain, for her own selfish, twisted desires, for her utter lack of empathy. I looked at my parents, their faces etched with shock, and a profound, dawning regret. For so long, they had accepted Maya's narrative without question, implicitly trusting her, dismissing my nascent doubts, their eyes blinded by her effortless charm, her superficial perfection, and perhaps their own maybe unconscious bias towards her. Now, the bitter taste of their own credulity was undoubtedly sharp, a painful reckoning they could not escape. "She did," I said, my voice steady, devoid of the emotional tremor I had felt just moments before, a newfound strength settling deep within me, a quiet resolve. "She accused Ben. And you all believed her, without a shred of evidence. You postponed my wedding, the happiest date of my life. You turned your backs on him, cast him out of the family." The words weren't accusatory in tone, but simply a statement of undeniable, unvarnished fact, delivered with a quiet strength that surprised even myself, a strength born of pain, resilience, and an unshakable commitment to the truth. My mother burst into fresh tears, a new, deeper wave of grief washing over her, more profound than before as the full weight of her daughter's betrayal and her own error sank in. My father ran a trembling hand through his thinning hair, his shoulders slumped with the heavy burden of realization, the crushing weight of their collective mistake, their complicity. The room, which had once been vibrant with false celebration, was now permeated by the palpable weight of shattered trust and exposed deceit, the ghostly presence of a lie that had consumed everything, leaving only emptiness. One by one, the remaining guests, their faces a mixture of discomfort and quiet condemnation, began to quietly slip away, their goodbyes mumbled, their faces averted, unable to meet my gaze, ashamed to be witnesses to such a raw, public unraveling. The house, once vibrant with false celebration, emptied rapidly, leaving just my stunned parents, Alex, and me standing amidst the shattered remnants of Maya's devastating lie, surrounded by the physical debris of the shower and the emotional wreckage of our family. My mother finally looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with a desperate plea for understanding, for forgiveness, for a way forward. "What do we do, Isabella? How could she do this? How could she be so cruel, so utterly devoid of feeling?" "I don't know, Mom," I replied, my voice tired but firm, my gaze unwavering. "But this isn't just about Maya anymore. It's about trust. It's about what you believed, and crucially, who you chose to believe without question." The unspoken implication hung heavily in the air, a silent, painful challenge to their long-held perceptions, to the very foundation of their family dynamics. Alex, sensing the raw, exposed emotion, the profound hurt in the room, gently intervened, her practical nature asserting itself. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, I think it's important to acknowledge the immense emotional toll this has taken on Isabella and Ben. Lies like this, especially within a family, can cause irreparable damage, poisoning relationships at their core, eroding the very bonds of trust. The immediate priority should be to reach out to Ben, to offer him a sincere, unequivocal apology, one that acknowledges the depth of his suffering, and to begin the difficult, painstaking process of rebuilding what has been so wantonly destroyed." My father nodded slowly, his eyes still fixed on the empty space where Maya had stood, a profound sadness in their depths, a quiet acknowledgement of the enormity of their mistake. "You're right, Alex, absolutely right. There's no denying that." He turned to me, his voice heavy with contrition, a deep, bitter regret etched into every line of his face. "Isabella, I am so profoundly sorry. We were so quick to judge, so eager to believe the worst. We let her manipulate us so thoroughly, so completely. We should have known better, should have seen through her charade, should have stood by you both. The apology, though heartfelt and undeniably painful for them to utter, felt a little hollow in the face of the immense, agonizing pain I had endured, the public humiliation I had suffered, the weeks of torment. It was a start, an essential first step on a very long road, but the wounds were deep, etched into my soul, not easily forgotten or dismissed. "I'll call Ben," I said, my voice calmer now, a sense of grim determination replacing the initial shock. "He deserves to hear it from you, from both of you. He deserves to know the truth has been exposed, that his name has been cleared, that his innocence has been proven." Leaving my parents to grapple with the seismic shift in their perception of their golden child, to confront the uncomfortable, painful truths of their own blind spots and misjudgments, Alex and I quietly exited the house. The crisp autumn air outside felt like a breath of fresh, cleansing air after the stifling, suffocating atmosphere of deceit and shattered illusions. My dignity was indeed restored, a victory that felt both exhilarating in its clarity and profoundly melancholic in its cost. The truth had been revealed, but at a tremendous price, leaving a path of emotional wreckage in its wake. My wedding was still postponed, my family was in turmoil, and the emotional scars would undoubtedly take considerable time to heal. A long, arduous process of mending shattered trust and broken hearts. But as I drove away, Alex beside me, her presence a silent testament to unwavering loyalty, a quiet strength settled deep within me. The power dynamics within my family had irrevocably shifted. I was no longer the quiet observer, the one perpetually relegated to Maya's shadow, the one who constantly felt less than. I had faced her deception head-on, in front of everyone, and I had emerged, bruised but undeniably victorious, vindicated. And with Alex's unwavering support, in the renewed, unshakable belief in Ben's innocence, I knew that while the wedding might be on hold, the fight for my happiness, and for a future built on truth and integrity, had only just begun. The sting of betrayal was still sharp, a raw ache in my heart, but the quiet, deep satisfaction of vindication was a powerful, comforting antidote, a promise of a future built on solid ground, a foundation of honesty. The initial surge of vindication, while powerful and deeply satisfying, soon gave way to the complex, often messy, and profoundly exhausting reality of healing. The truth had been exposed, Maya's lie laid bare for all to see, but the wounds it left behind were deep and pervasive, affecting not just me and Ben, but the entire family dynamic. The immediate aftermath was characterized by an emotional hangover, a lingering sense of exhaustion from the sheer intensity of the confrontation, the public humiliation. My parents, still reeling from the shock and public embarrassment, continued their painful introspection, their faces etched with a mixture of profound shame, bitter regret, and a dawning understanding of their complicity. They moved through their days with a quiet solemnity, their usual bustling energy replaced by a subdued awkwardness, especially in my presence, as if unsure how to approach me, how to begin to atone. Their attempts to mend fences with Ben were tentative, halting, often painfully awkward. My mother, in her desperate efforts to express remorse, occasionally stumbled over her words. Her apologies tinged with a desperate plea for understanding that sometimes felt more about her own relief at the truth being out than Ben's profound, unjust hurt. My father, typically reserved and stoic, made more direct, if still somewhat stiff and formal, overtures. He invited Ben to play golf, a shared passion they'd had once enjoyed before the chaos. And while the conversations on the green were initially strained, punctuated by long, uncomfortable silences, a fragile thread of communication slowly began to re-establish itself. Ben, with a grace that spoke volumes of his true character, accepted their apologies. But the warmth and ease that had once characterized his relationship with my family were gone, replaced by a cautious distance, an invisible but palpable wall of hurt and distrust that would take considerable time, perhaps years, to dismantle. He was polite, but reserved, his guard understandably up. Maya, predictably, remained an enigma, a ghost from our past. She vanished completely from our lives, retreating into a self-imposed exile that bordered on complete isolation. Her phone number was disconnected, her social media accounts deactivated, her digital footprint erased. Rumors occasionally surfaced, whispers filtered through distant relatives of her struggling to find stable employment, of a restless, aimless existence, unable to forge meaningful connections or build a stable life. The once golden child, whose life had seemed so effortlessly perfect, so flawlessly executed, was now grappling with the harsh, undeniable consequences of her actions. A stark reminder that deceit, however grandly executed, however spectacularly performed, eventually exacted its price, leaving behind a bitter harvest of isolation and profound regret. While I felt no overt schadenfreude, no pleasure in her suffering, there was a quiet, almost melancholic understanding that her chosen path, her malicious decision, had led her to this solitary, unfulfilling existence, a stark contrast to the rich, fulfilling life Ben and I were painstakingly building, together, brick by honest brick. My own feelings towards Maya continued to be a complex tapestry of anger, profound sorrow, and a strange, unexpected sense of liberation. The years of unspoken competition, the constant pressure to measure up to her impossible standards of perfection, the subtle undermining that had chipped away at my self-esteem, slowly eroding my confidence, all of it had culminated in this spectacular, self-destructive act. And in its wake, I felt a peculiar, exhilarating kind of freedom. Her deception, however painful and destructive in its execution, had ironically freed me from the lifelong burden of our unspoken sibling rivalry. I no longer needed to prove anything, no longer needed to chase a perfection that was never truly mine to achieve, never truly attainable. My worth was inherent, defined by my own integrity, my own truth, unburdened by the need for external validation or the crushing weight of comparisons to her perceived brilliance. My renewed connection with Alex deepened further during this tumultuous period. She became more than just a friend. She was a sister in spirit, a steadfast confidant who offered not just comfort and empathy, but incisive wisdom and practical advice. We continued our weekly coffee dates, our conversations ranging from the intricacies of medical advancements to the complexities of human psychology, exploring the profound depths of trust and betrayal. Alex, with her keen observational skills and unwavering commitment to honesty, often provided invaluable insights into the dynamics of family trauma and the vital importance of self-preservation, of protecting Yendas, my own emotional well-being. She reminded me that while forgiveness was important for my own healing, a release from bitterness, it did not necessitate forgetting the lessons learned. Nor did it demand a return to a dysfunctional dynamic that had caused such profound, lasting pain. Her friendship was a beacon of unwavering support, a constant reminder of my own inherent strength and resilience, a guiding light through the emotional fog. I immersed myself in my newly rekindled passion for design, sketching intricate patterns and delicate designs that felt more authentic, more me, than anything I had created before. It was a deeply therapeutic process, translating complex emotions, the raw pain and the slow emergence of hope, into tangible beauty, finding solace in the rhythmic strokes of my pencil, the quiet sheen tree, concentration of my craft. I even began to explore jewelry making seriously, not initially as a business venture, but as a personal artistic outlet, working with intricate beads, delicate wires, and shimmering gemstones, finding a meditative peace in the precise, repetitive movements of crafting something beautiful with my own hands, piece by piece. This creative exploration was a vital component of my healing, allowing me to transform pain into something meaningful and beautiful, a testament to my own enduring spirit, my ability to create even from ashes of devastation. As the months turned into a year, a subtle yet profound shift occurred within me, a quiet transformation. The lingering anger that had once simmered beneath the surface, a constant dull ache, began to dissipate, slowly replaced by a quiet acceptance, a serene sense of peace. The pain, though still present, dulled into a manageable ache, a distant scar rather than an open, festering wound. Ben and I realized that we had emerged from the crucible of betrayal not diminished, not broken, but profoundly stronger. Our bond forged in adversity, tempered by the fires of deceit, and reinforced by the unwavering strength of our unwavering commitment to each other, to our truth. Our love, once a vibrant, carefree flame, had deepened its roots, transforming into a resilient, unshakable fire, capable of withstanding any storm, any challenge that life might throw our way. One beautiful spring afternoon, exactly 1 year after the devastating family dinner that had shattered our lives, as Ben and I sat together on a comfortable bench in a sun-drenched park, watching children chase iridescent bubbles, their laughter light and carefree, their joy unburdened, he turned to me, a gentle smile on his face. His eyes filled with a quiet earnestness that mirrored the depth of his feelings. "Isabella," he began, his voice soft, almost a whisper, yet infused with a powerful conviction. "It's been a long year. A profoundly difficult one. One that tested us to our limits. But we made it through. And I love you more now, more deeply and truly than I ever thought possible, more than I could have imagined before." My heart swelled, a joyous, unburdened feeling that brought tears to my eyes, but these were tears of pure joy, unsullied by past pain, unburdened by lingering doubt. This wasn't a desperate attempt to reclaim a lost dream. It was a conscious, heartfelt decision to embrace a future we had painstakingly built together, brick by brick, honest conversation by honest conversation, through shared vulnerability and unwavering support. "I love you too, Ben. More than words can say, more than I ever knew was possible for two people to feel," I responded, my voice thick with emotion. He reached into his pocket, his hand trembling slightly with anticipation, and pulled out a small, velvet box. My breath hitched in my throat, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a beat of pure hope. It wasn't a new ring, but my ring, the original engagement ring, meticulously cleaned and gleaming, its diamonds sparkling with renewed brilliance in the gentle sunlight, a symbol of promises renewed, of a future reclaimed, of a bond that had been tested and proven unbreakable. "I know we said we'd wait," he continued, his eyes earnest, reflecting the profound love and unwavering commitment that shone within him, a steadfast light. "But I can't imagine another day without looking forward to calling you my wife. Not because of a societal expectation, or a rushed, rescheduled plan, or a desperate attempt to reclaim what was lost, but because it feels intrinsically right. Because we are right, fundamentally and irrevocably. Our love is stronger, deeper, more resilient. Our foundation is unshakable, built on honesty, truth, and unwavering mutual respect. And I want to promise you that future, officially, unequivocally, with all my heart, with every fiber of my being, right here, right now." Tears streamed freely down my cheeks now, but these were tears of pure, unadulterated joy, unburdened by past pain, unsullied by lingering doubt, tears of absolute happiness. This wasn't a desperate attempt to reclaim a lost dream. It was a conscious, heartfelt decision to embrace a future we had painstakingly built together, brick by brick, honest conversation by honest conversation, through shared vulnerability and unwavering support. "Yes," I whispered, my voice choked with overwhelming emotion, barely audible. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. With all my heart, yes, yes, yes." We chose a small, intimate ceremony, a stark contrast to the grand, lavish affair we had initially planned. It was held in a secluded botanical garden, a sanctuary of natural beauty, surrounded by the quiet splendor of nature, its vibrant blooms a testament to life's resilience, to growth from adversity. Only our closest friends and family were present, those who had stood by us, who had seen our truth. My parents, their faces etched with genuine happiness and a quiet humility, watched with profound pride, their acceptance of Ben now complete and sincere, their own journey of reconciliation evident in their joyful expressions. Ben's family, who had always been a source of unwavering support and unconditional love, celebrated with us, their joy unmarred by past drama, their faces reflecting pure, unadulterated happiness for our union. Alex stood proudly beside me as my maid of honor, her presence a silent, powerful testament to her unwavering loyalty, her incisive intelligence, and her crucial role in my journey of vindication, healing, and self-discovery. As I stood at the altar, looking into Ben's loving eyes, I felt a sense of profound peace that transcended any past pain, any lingering bitterness, any residue of the trauma. The journey had been arduous, marked by a bitter betrayal and profound hurt, by moments of utter despair. But it had ultimately led me here, to this sacred moment, to a profound understanding of my own strength, the unwavering power of true love, and the liberating truth of authenticity. The wedding, finally, was not just a celebration of our union, but a powerful affirmation of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring triumph of truth over deception. I had faced the darkest chapter of my life, exposed a cruel, malicious lie in front of everyone, and emerged not only with my dignity intact, but with a love fortified by adversity, deepened by shared struggle, and, made stronger than ever, the bitter memory of my sister's betrayal still lingered. A faint echo of the past, a subtle reminder of what I had overcome, but it was now overshadowed by the vibrant, luminous reality of my life, built on integrity, sustained by an unshakable love, and illuminated by the Wan Jardim's unwavering, guiding light of truth. My story was not just about a faked pregnancy and a dramatic reveal. It was about the arduous, beautiful journey of reclaiming oneself, one painful step and one triumphant stride at a time, finding strength in vulnerability and light in the darkest of shadows, ultimately leading to a profound, enduring happiness. The years that followed our intimate wedding unfurled with a quiet grace, painting a picture of profound contentment and unwavering stability. The scars from Maya's deception, while still present, had gradually faded into faint silvery lines, silent reminders of a battle fought and won, rather than open, festering wounds. They were symbols of resilience, not sources of pain. Ben and I meticulously built a life that was rich in shared experiences, deep, meaningful conversations, and an unshakable foundation of mutual support. We found a charming, slightly older house just outside the bustling city, a place with a sprawling garden that Ben meticulously cultivated. Its vibrant blooms and lush greenery, a testament to the growth we had both undergone, individually and as a couple. The comforting scent of blooming roses and damp earth became the very aroma of our home. A tranquil, grounding fragrance that slowly, beautifully replaced the sterile air of city apartments and the lingering, tense smell of roast from my parents' dining room. My parents, having navigated their own difficult and profoundly humbling journey of remorse and reconciliation, slowly, painstakingly, rebuilt their relationship with me, and more importantly, with Ben. The initial awkwardness that characterized our early interactions after the exposure of Maya's lie gradually gave way to a quiet, genuine affection, a newfound, profound appreciation for our resilience, honesty, and our steadfastness. My mother, once so quick to judge, so easily swayed by superficial appearances, became a fierce advocate for truth and integrity within the family, her hard-learned lessons evident in every interaction. My father, in his later years, found a quiet, deeply deserved peace, his once somber demeanor softened by the boundless joy of seeing me truly happy, truly free, living a life built on authenticity. Family gatherings, while never quite as boisterous or outwardly exuberant as they had been before Maya's devastating deception, were now imbued with a deeper sincerity, a more profound sense of connection that transcended superficial pleasantries and forced smiles. The conversations were more genuine, the laughter more heartfelt. Maya remained a distant, almost spectral presence in our lives, a phantom limb of a past we had outgrown. Occasional whispers would reach us through the grapevine of distant relatives, fragmented stories of a solitary existence, of a life marked by restless movement, fleeting connections, and an inability to truly settle or find genuine purpose. There was no direct contact, no attempt at reconciliation on her part, just the silent, ongoing consequence of her choices, a self-imposed isolation. While the profound hurt she had inflicted could never be entirely erased, the passage of years brought with them a sense of quiet detachment, a melancholic but firm recognition that her path was her own, and my focus was firmly on the vibrant, fulfilling life I had painstakingly built from myself and my family. The freedom from her shadow, from the weight of her presence, and the burden of competition was absolute. A liberation I cherished with every fiber of my being, a peace I had long yearned for. Alex continued to be my steadfast confidant, my truest sister in spirit, a bond forged in the crucible of shared challenges. Our friendship, forged not just in the rigorous years of medical school but tempered and strengthened by the fires of personal crisis, deepened into an unbreakable bond, a sacred connection. We celebrated each other's professional triumphs, supported each other through life's inevitable challenges, and shared countless moments of laughter, profound understanding, and unwavering mutual support. She was the anchor who had helped me navigate the storm, the steady hand that had guided me through the darkness, and the constant reminder of the inherent strength and resilience I possessed within myself. We often reflected on the power of honesty, the insidious, corrosive nature of jealousy, and the vital, life-affirming importance of surrounding oneself with genuine connections, with people who truly see and value you. My passion for jewelry design, once a simple personal artistic outlet, slowly, organically, began to blossom into something more significant, something truly meaningful. Friends and acquaintances admired the unique pieces I wore, inquiries turned into commissions, and before I knew it, I had a small, thriving business, built entirely on word of mouth, genuine connection, and the unique Beza. Heartfelt designs that had emerged directly from my own journey of healing and self-discovery. My pieces were characterized by a quiet elegance, a subtle symbolism that spoke of resilience, growth, and the profound beauty found even in imperfection, in the broken pieces coming together to form something new. It was a stark contrast to the mass-produced luxury of large jewelry corporations, and yet, there was a shared commitment to artistry. A genuine connection to craftsmanship that resonated deeply with my own humble beginnings and the core values I now held. I found immense satisfaction in this creative endeavor, each piece a tangible expression of my renewed spirit, a testament to my ability to transform pain and adversity into something beautiful and meaningful, a true extension of myself. As the years accumulated, bringing with them the gentle wisdom and deepening perspective of age, Bet and I decided to start a family. The news was met with immense joy, particularly from my parents, whose previous hopes for grandchildren had been so cruelly manipulated and momentarily shattered by Maya's deception. Our daughter, Lily, was born on a crisp autumn day, her arrival a vibrant, undeniable affirmation of life, hope, and the enduring, transformative power of love. She was a pure ray of sunshine, her innocent laughter filling our home with a boundless joy that eclipsed any lingering shadows of the past, dissolving them completely in her bright presence. Watching Lily grow, seeing her curious eyes explore the world with unbridled wonder, Hearing her infectious giggle echo through the house brought a profound sense of completeness and utter fulfillment to my life. I often thought about the complex tapestry of events that had led me to this precise moment. The struggling single dad in the stories I used to read, the girl selling humble bracelets, the unforeseen intervention of a powerful, benevolent figure, all of it seemed to mirror, in a profound way, the unexpected turns and redemptive arcs in my own journey. I had faced unimaginable betrayal, navigated profound family turmoil, and emerged not only stronger but clearer, more deeply connected to myself and to the people who truly mattered, the ones who had stood by dear-eyed. May. One balmy summer evening, as Lily, then a bright-eyed 5-year-old with a spirit as vibrant as the wildflowers in our garden, scampered excitedly towards me with a handful of brightly colored beads, eager to show me a new design she had meticulously imagined in her innocent mind. A profound sense of gratitude washed over me, a feeling so overwhelming it almost brought me to my knees. Ben was nearby, tending to his flourishing rose bushes, his quiet contentment and unwavering love a palpable, comforting presence in the twilight air. Alex was inside, helping me prepare one of her famously delicious, comforting meals, her laughter drifting out from the open kitchen window. "Mommy, look!" Lily exclaimed, her voice bubbling with pure excitement, holding up a clumsy but earnest string of mismatched beads, a simple, heartfelt creation. "It's a bracelet for you, to make you happy, because you're the best mommy." I knelt down, my eyes glistening with tears of pure, unadulterated joy, taking the tiny, imperfect creation in my hands, my heart swelling with a familiar warmth, a profound recognition. It was unpolished, uneven, and utterly lacking in sophisticated design, but it was imbued with a pure, unfiltered love that resonated deeply within me, a direct line to my own past. It reminded me, in a visceral, poignant way, of those early, simple bracelets I had made for my own parents, crafted with earnest effort, youthful hope, and a yearning for connection, for acceptance. "It's the most beautiful bracelet, darling," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion, pulling her into a tight, warm hug, burying my face in her sweet-smelling hair. "Thank you, my precious girl. It makes me very, very happy. Happier than you could ever imagine." As I held her close, her small arms wrapped tightly around my neck, I looked towards the house, warm and inviting, towards Ben, silhouetted against the setting sun, towards Alex, whose laughter now mingled with the clatter of dishes. I looked at the life we had painstakingly built together, brick by honest brick, filled with love and truth. The journey had been long, arduous, marked by unexpected detours, profound challenges, and agonizing moments of despair. But it had ultimately led me here, to this precise, perfect moment, to a place of profound peace, genuine purpose, and unshakable love. The bitterness had long since dissolved, replaced by a deep, abiding appreciation for the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring, transformative power of truth, and the quiet, unwavering strength of a love that had faced the storm, weathered the most devastating betrayal, and emerged, not only unbroken, but flourishing, more vibrant and true than ever before. My sister had tried to ruin my engagement with a cruel, malicious lie, but in doing so, she had inadvertently set me on a path to reclaim my dignity, redefine my happiness, and build a life that was authentically, beautifully, and undeniably mine, a life of profound and lasting joy.